Before I begin, let me explain what is happening to me. The technical term for what I am is called an eidetic. You've probably heard of people with photographic memories. Well, that's what it is, except eidetics are not limited by visual sense in what they remember. While each carries in their specific capabilities, feelings of sound, taste, smell, and touch can also be vividly recalled at any time. Some eidetics are also known to have the ability to see what they are thinking. This is the category that I belong in. I have to admit this ability does have its perks. School is a breeze because I can say my notes to every exam that I take. I'm able to bring up happy memories that I've had with my friends and family to help brighten their day. Whenever I get bored, I can read books that I've read or watch TV shows that I've watched in my head. Seems cool, right? At least that's what people tell me. I really wish they were right. What they don't know is that I would give anything in the world to be rid of this. The way that my vision works is that in addition to what my eyes can actually see, my brain overlaps whatever I'm already thinking of over this, and this is a result of a combination of the two. Therefore, the effect of my mental vision is limited during the day because my actual vision interferes with it. But whenever I go to bed, the room is totally dark. My mental vision is given free rein of what I can see. No one might ask why this is so bad. As long as you think of pleasant things, this must be a very relaxing way to go to bed, right? Does it imply you are in complete control of every thought that goes through your head at all times? However, this is almost never the case. The brain is constantly bombarded with what's called intrusive thoughts. I'm sure you've heard of the normal creaks and groans from your house at night and you think that maybe someone or something is walking around in the dark. Fear swells in you for a second, but after a minute or so of nothing happening, you're able to shrug it off as your imagination and go to sleep. This is an intrusive thought. Although you know there is nothing there, your brain forces you to think, at least for a moment, that there is. Except with me, these intrusive thoughts conjure an image that accompanies the sound. Sound in the night are always accompanied by some sort of person or creature walking into my room or standing there watching me. Obviously, this made growing up hard. I couldn't understand any of this when I was young and just assumed that there were monsters in my room when I went to bed. Many a nights, my parents would rush into my room after hearing my cries and try to console me. Even through their presence, they never made the image go away. Eventually, I could understand that these images weren't real because they were all things I'd seen before, and being able to recognize where they came from, it had a calming effect. I learned to live with and even anticipate entities that would appear each night. That was until a few months ago. I had just gotten back to my apartment after a long night working at the hospital, and I noticed that my roommate wasn't home. I assumed that he was out at the bars, thought nothing of it, and went inside. As I opened the door to my apartment, the normal darkness greeted me, and my mental vision took over as I walked over to the light switch. Just as I was about to turn on the lights, I saw a man at the end of the hallway looking at me. I could tell that he was just an image, but for the first time, he was something that I had no memory of. He was extremely fat and had no clothing except for a small black bolo hat on his balding head. His skin was a light, sickly purple colored, appeared to be peeling across his clearly disease-ridden body. His mouth hung open, revealing a set of gangrenous teeth and pus-laden stump of a tongue. But the thing that stuck out the most was that he had no eyes or even eye sockets. They were replaced with lumps of flesh that seemed to grow from the edges of his hat. My hand hesitated on the light switch, and my fear was temporarily replaced with curiosity. I wanted to see what this man would do if I sat around for a while.
He was, after all, just an image that my brain had conjured up, so I took a seat on the couch and observed quietly. After a minute or so, he started to move. Like all of my other hallucinations, his actions made no noise in the real world, and he just silently shuffled around my apartment. He didn't seem to be heading towards me at all, nor did he appear to have any destination in mind. I started to lose interest and got up to turn the lights on and get ready for bed. Then he spoke. A fear, the likes of which I've never known, resonated down my entire spine. None of my hallucinations have ever made their own noises, let alone form words. I tried to rationalize that maybe I heard people talking either from outside my window or perhaps outside my door, but before I even had a chance to validate my claims, he spoke again.
He just wanted to see you again.
His voice was garbled and deep, and he spoke very quietly, but I heard every word. Panic took hold of me, and I bolted for the light switch. As always, the light instantly made the man disappear, and I was left alone in my apartment. Relief washed over me as I tried to make sense of what just happened. I knew that the voice had come from a man, but I couldn't figure out how that was even possible. I didn't even recognize it from any scary movie I had seen or any picture on the internet, nor could I recall anyone talking like that. No matter what conclusion I came to, I knew that I would see him again when I went to bed. However, her image also seemed to have an effect on him. He immediately stopped his shufflings and seemed to turn to where she was. It's difficult for me to describe what he did next because it makes me question my sanity, but somehow he forced her to fade from my vision. It wasn't possible. I should have been able to keep my vision of her if I thought about her, but for the first time, I couldn't. As soon as she faded, he spoke again.
You should have been there. She thought about you at the end.
A memory was then thrust into my mind. It was of my grandmother. She'd been in the hospital for the last few months of her life. My dad used to take me and my sister to visit her. My grandmother adored us and absolutely loved whenever we came to see her. One time, when my dad was going to visit, I told him that I wanted to hang out with my friends instead, and he obliged. That was the last time my dad went to see her, and she died a few days later. I felt horrible for not going, and I regretted it for a long time. These feelings of regret and sorrow overwhelmed me, and I suddenly realized the meaning behind the man's words. He was somehow able to project a memory that I didn't want to think about and relive the emotions I felt during it. He has visited me every night since then. Each time a horrible moment in my life is wrenched from my subconscious, and I endure the sorrow of each event. Each night I am unable to cope with the overwhelming surge of emotions, and what little sleep I get is plagued by nightmares of these memories. I see no end in sight, and I'm at wit's end. I often think of the nature of heaven and hell, and whether or not there is a God. Originally, I was inclined to believe that there couldn't exist a God that would allow this kind of torment to be inflicted upon a person who seemingly did nothing wrong to deserve it. However, I cannot think of a more terrifying vision of hell than this. To be forced to relive and reconsider each bad decision in one's life is the ultimate and most effective method to punish a soul to its breaking point. I can see only one way to escape this. If my family reads this, just know that I love you all and I'm sorry for the pain that I caused. Hopefully, you'll understand.